Many congratulations to the top three finishers of the FIA Formula One Italian Grand Prix. In third place, Carlos Sainz. In second place, Sergio Perez. And taking his 10th consecutive win and the 47th of his Formula One career, our winner, Max Verstappen. Max, very well done. 10 wins in a row. No one has ever done that before. What does this record mean to you?
Yeah, I think, of course, it's something you don't expect to happen. I never thought in the beginning of the season that something like this was possible. So, yeah, very proud, but also just very happy with, I think, the race in general. We had good pace again. We could look after our tires. It was quite a interesting little battle in the beginning, to try and get a move into turn one, but we just didn't have the top speed to do so. So I had to wait for a tiny mistake or tiny lock-up, whatever. And at one point, Carlos had a little lock-up, which then, made me have a good run out of turn two. And once I got in the lead, I could just focus on my own pace. And, the car felt really nice to drive.
Max, I'm sorry to drag you back to this record, but other drivers have won races, other drivers have won world championships, but no one has done what you've just done.
That's correct. No, honestly, I'm just, very proud also of, the whole team effort the whole year already. I mean, what we are doing at the moment, winning every race this year is something that, we definitely are enjoying, because I don't think these kind of seasons, they come around very often. And that's the same, of course, with winning 10 in a row.
Any messages from Sebastian Vettel prior to the race or even since the race?
No, I mean, I haven't had my phone yet, so we'll check later.
Now, bringing it back to the race then, we saw some really good racing today, better than we've seen at other racetracks. Why do you think that was?
I think in general it's still hard to pass around here. I think up at the front it was also because we were behind them, so we were faster and we had to pass. So I don't know, maybe I don't think it's track specific. Also, here in qualifying sometimes you can maybe jump one or two places, but then the race drop back, so that then naturally, of course, creates more overtaking or at least a chance of possible fights. So I don't think it's always the track.
Okay. Look, final one from me. You said earlier that you were nursing a little issue at the end. Can you tell us any more about that?
I haven't spoken to the team yet about what issue or what the issue was really. So they just told me what I had to do, and I did that to the end. Luckily, of course, we had the gap behind, so I could just take it quite easy to the end. All right, Singapore next. How do you see that race? A little bit more difficult, I think, for us, but we'll see. We'll do our best, and of course we'll try to go in there and try to win it again. But it's not, let's say, I think going to be the strongest weekend for us.
All right. Well, look, best of luck with that, and very well done today. Thank you, Checo. Coming to you now. Great race. You had to fight hard for it, especially with George Russell and with Carlos. Tell us about those fights. Hard but fair.
Yeah, it was all the way through fighting, basically. First getting through George, which was not very easy. Had to take the escape route into turn two a few times. Once I managed to clear him, the team told me to box, but at the same lap, Carlos boxed, so I decided to stay out, thinking that we can extend a little bit more, to build a bit more of a tile delta, but then we were in the risk of undercut to George, and we end up behind the Ferraris. And once Charles had the DRS from Carlos, it was very hard to put him on pressure. Towards around 10 or 11 laps, he lost the DRS from Carlos, and that really made my race. When I was able to pass, I had some contacts, like I think into turn 4, I had no space, and we end up touching. Luckily, there was no damage for any of us, and then with Carlos as well, it was another very tight fight, but as expected for those positions.
You came into the weekend wanting to have a clean weekend. You've come away with a podium. Just how pleased are you with how it's all gone?
Very pleased, but we had a terrible Saturday in terms of the issues we had in P3 with the car, and really put us back in qualifying. So I think we could have had a better starting position, which definitely would have put us a lot closer in the fight for victory. But certainly we made a lot of progress, which is a positive thing. I think we've done very good setup directions and some work with the suspension as well, and I'm able to feel quite a lot more comfortable.
Okay. Max thinks Singapore is going to be slightly harder for you guys than this weekend in Italy. You won there last year in Singapore. Can we get your thoughts?
I think so. I agree with Max. I think it's going to be a weekend where basically anything can happen, and hopefully we are able to have a very strong Saturday, because if you don't start in the front row, it's very unlikely that you will have a shot at the victory. So hopefully we can repeat what we did last year there.
All right. Very well done today. Thank you, Checo. And Carlos, coming to you now. What a place to take your first podium of the season. Pressure all the way. What's your overriding emotion when you look back on it all?
Yeah, obviously very, very happy, because a P3 in Monza in front of the Tifosi is as good as it can get, at least for this weekend, because clearly the Red Bull were, in the end, quite a bit quicker than us today, as we expected. It was a day to try, and I tried everything I could to keep them behind, especially that first stint in front of Max. It probably nearly cost me a podium, because it meant that I was wearing a lot of my tires and using the tires more than probably what I would have liked, and making me very vulnerable towards the end of the stints, and always under a lot of pressure by Max first, then Checo, then Charles, and yeah, in the end I could make it on 2P3 because we made it, but it was a tough one, a very tough one.
Was there any moment in that first stint when you had Max behind you that you thought, hang on, I can win this?
Yeah, halfway through it, I felt like I had it fairly under control, but then I think around lap 10 to 12, I started feeling the rear left tire giving up a lot earlier than I would have expected, And at that point, I realized I had used my tires too much, and I probably, to keep Max behind, I had just wear that rear left tire too much, and that I was going to suffer a lot for the rest of the race, because it was going to probably make me box early into a hard tire, and then the second stint was going to be very long, And it's exactly what happened, and my feeling was correct. But yeah, honestly, I didn't expect to degrade so much, but it was clear that I was pushing very, very hard to keep them behind, probably harder than what the car or what I should have done.
Can we talk team orders? What were you told prior to the race about battling with Charles? Because it got pretty spicy at the end.
No, we obviously knew that the car that is in DRS is always going to be feeling like it's the quicker car, but we know that around this track, once you get into that DRS, you feel quicker, and we knew that. But at the same time, we know we were both fighting for a podium in Monza, so there was always going to be a bit of a fight, a bit of a battle. In the end, we kept it clean. There were a couple of nice moves here and there, tight battles, but I think today, honestly, I enjoyed battling Max, battling Checo, battling Charles. I think it was a good day for F1, as you said, a good show, and I just did everything I could to stay in front, and it worked.
All right, very well done to you. Thank you. Let's now open this to the floor. Please remember to give your name and publication. First one.
Alex Canlocus, Autosport. Question to Carlos, please. Carlos, did you have yourself DRS at any point during that race? And given that the majority of your rivals seem to be benefiting from it, did that make it extra hard to keep the tyres alive? Thanks.
Yeah, I've had it before, in places like Austria or Canada, where once you get into a DRS, you can manage the tyres a bit better because they pull you on the straight, and then you can control the exits and the traction and the medium to high speed a bit more. And today I never really had the chance to feel that, and I had to push quite a lot in the corners to try and keep that gap and defend into turn one, defend hard on the braking. And in the end, it was just never possible for me to manage those tires. It nearly cost me, as I said, the podium, but as I said today, I didn't want to go home with the feeling that I haven't tried, and I didn't try and win and try and stay ahead. I was committed to trying and to make sure I was going to use all the life of those tires to try and stay ahead. Nearly managed to do that in the first stint, but in the end, the stints are just a bit too long for us right now.
Thanks, Carlos. Yep, another one.
Ronald Vording, motorsport.com. Question to all three, starting with Max, please. It's basically a follow-up on the DRS question. DRS seemed a bit less powerful here with the load down for setups. And as a result of that, we saw more action into the braking zones instead of just passing someone on the straight. Did it make it a bit more enjoyable for you guys? And do you think having a little bit less DRS effect might be a way forward for Formula One? Thank you.
No. I think in most tracks we still struggle to follow or pass. I mean, in the beginning of the year, a lot of people were complaining about passing. Of course, we had the luxury, being a quick car, you know, we could still pass, like in Miami. I think everyone was complaining in Miami about the passing. Remember in the briefings with DRS?
Yeah.
I think there is, you know, the cars are getting more and more efficient, and more they have more downforce. So basically, it's harder to follow, and then they're more efficient on the straight. And yeah, of course, naturally here there's less DRS effect because there's almost no wing on the car. But I think it really depends on which track. Also here, for example, if Carlos, like he was putting the car in the middle and the braking in turn one, it's almost impossible to do something, because if I go for it and he just moves a little bit to the right, there is no space anymore. So for me, there was never really an option to actually fight in the braking zone today.
Thanks, Max. Checo?
Yeah, I really agree. I think we definitely less DRS is not the way forward. I remember we were discussing to actually increase the effect, because yeah, the cars is getting harder to follow. I think here the DRS effect, like Max says, is really small. So I don't think in other places we can race with less DRS. If anything, we need the DRS more in some places to be able to have better racing.
In Singapore, we need more DRS than the straight allows. So
exactly. No, I think what you saw today is a bit of a coincidence, where we had a lot of top speed with no DRS, and Red Bull had just enough top speed with DRS and slipstream and battery to get to us and the braking, and that generated a good fun battle. But in 99% of the tracks, I think we're going to need DRS. And we're going to need a powerful DRS, because these cars from the beginning of the year, like Max said, it's starting to become a bit like 2021 or 2020, where it is difficult to follow. Obviously, Monza is a special case, because you don't only have DRS, you also have very long straights of slipstreaming, which helps a bit more the car behind. But yeah, I think in the rest of the tracks, we're going to need DRS.
Thanks all. Another one?
Yes, Carlos Miquel, Diario Marca. Question for Carlos. Carlos, would you like to be the new Minister of Defense of Spain? One part of the question. And the second question is about the fight with Charles. Do you believe in any moment, in the moment when if Charles touched your car, that maybe your race is finished?
I'm happy to share Minister of Defense title of Spain and Checo Mexican, no?
Yeah,
maybe we can have a dinner, political dinner, no?
The Minister of Attacks as well, we need that title.
Depends on the weekend, we can be Minister of Attack or Defense, but yeah. Yeah, it's a nice title. I find it quite funny when I see these memes out there. Then for Charles, no, I never felt too much of a risk. Obviously, with a teammate, you're always like a bit more tense, a bit more space, you know, because it's the last thing you want in Monza in front of the Tifosi, the two Ferraris to touch. But I think we had a tough, fair battle. It was for an important position, and we managed to keep it clean. And it was good fun. As I said, I had fun with Charles, but I also had fun with Max and Checo. I would have preferred to be the one attacking than the one defending, not gonna lie. But today was my turn to defend, and I feel like I did that well.
Thank you. All right, another one?
Niharika from Sportskeeda. A question for Carlos. Carlos, we've seen in the past that your car tends to deg in clean air and dirty air. And today, despite the pushing, despite the battles, you didn't seem to have a massive loss in performance. So Charles suggested that it might be the low downforce package. What is your understanding of the degradation in this race today with your car?
I mean, if you compare us to Mercedes and other teams, it looked like we did have some decent pace this weekend. If you compare us to a Red Bull, They were clearly quicker. For me, especially from lap 5, lap 6, once the tires come into temperature and you're driving on a hotter tire and on a less grip than the first 5 laps when the tire is new, there is where you clearly feel that the Red Bull can make a difference, you know, and can either manage more but keep a good pace, or they can either just push more for a faster pace and deck less. No, it's difficult. We are trying to find the solution and the way forward. I do believe a lot of it's still aerodynamics, and we still need to keep working on an aero package for next year. For this year, I think is what we have, and that's why they're so dominant in the races.
Thank you. Yep, another one.
Jesus Balseiro, Diarias, to Carlos, did you miss a bit of team orders at the end? I mean, wasn't it a bit risky to lose a podium in this special race for Ferrari?
I would have understood it both ways. If they would have given team orders, I would have understood. If I would have been Charles trying to get a podium, obviously I wouldn't have liked the team orders. So it completely depends in the position you're in. I'm not going to lie. It is very depending on a very subjective position or feeling. I think it was on the limit, but it was a nice teammate, hard F1 battle, you know, which in the end is also, I guess, what you guys want to see. And I had fun doing it.
Thank you. Another one.
Florian Niedermar from motorsportmagazine.com. Question to all 3 drivers. There were a few teams going for a 2-stop strategy today, although before the race everybody expected this to be an easy 1-stopper. Was there more tire degradation than you expected before the race, or was it in line with your expectations? Thank you.
I think today was a bit warmer, so for sure there was a little bit more deck, I guess. But also for me it was a bit difficult to compare, because on Friday I ran a different setup than what I did yesterday. So I still had to see a little bit in the race how everything was going. And then of course the first 15 laps behind Carlos, of course, hurts your tires a little bit more. But then once I was in clean air, it was very clear that for us it was for sure a 1-stop. But possibly a little bit more deck than it was on Friday. But then again, on Friday we never really got to do a lot of laps in a row because of red flags and stuff.
Yeah, I think nobody had much of an idea how the deck was going to be. I don't know who brought the red flag there in the end on Friday, but you know, no one is switched on. I can see.
I was like, is he serious?
Yeah, so nobody really did more than 4 laps, 5 laps, and you don't get to see what the tire is going to do. And also it was hotter today, so I think it was a bit of a combination in that regard, that the degradation was a little bit higher.
It did feel high deck for me. It did feel more like a 2-stop than a 1-stop. In the end, we committed to a 1-stop because that's what our numbers suggested before the race. But honestly, I was probably 5 laps short in each of the stints. Last 4 laps I did on the medium. I did it with 0 rubber left. And the last 5 laps, 10 laps, I did it with the hard. I did them with 0 rubber left. That's why I was sliding around so much, and that's why I guess if other teams had a similar feeling, committed to a 2-stop, because for me it was the 1-stop was very, very tight and very on the limit.
Okay, thank you. Yep, any more? Yep.
Alex Kalinauckas, Autosport. Another question to Carlos, please. Carlos, it's been a really impressive weekend overall. You were just behind Max in FP1. You led FP2 and FP3, pole yesterday. Really impressive in defence and leading early on today. Do you think this is your best weekend overall in F1?
I'm not sure in F1. I've done other strong weekends in F1 that maybe got a bit unnoticed when I was in the midfield, where I felt I extracted everything out of the car. Of this year, for sure. Of my Ferrari career, probably. Of my F1 career, it's a tough call. But yeah, I felt like this weekend I was on it from the beginning, comfortable with the car, especially over 1 lap. I felt really, really at home, and I could put together a strong lap yesterday and snatch pole, but today was again a bit tougher, and it shows me exactly where we need to keep working on, and where I will put my head down and keep pushing the team to keep working on our tire understanding and our race pace understanding.
All right. Very well done to all three of you. We will leave it there. See you in Singapore. Very